The following content has been generated with artificial intelligence under minimal human supervision. The data presented may contain errors or inaccuracies. The opinions expressed in this content do not necessarily reflect the vision, position, or values of Digi-all. We recommend verifying critical information with additional sources before making decisions based on this content.
Welcome to Digi-all Tech News. Today is Thursday, July 16th, 2026. I'm Kylie Brooks, and this is where technology becomes clear and engaging. JPMorgan's Jamie Dimon is warning that Anthropic's Mythos AI model creates a real national security access control problem, even for banks using it defensively. China's Xi Jinping is set to use Shanghai's W.A.I.C forum to pitch Beijing's AI governance vision, while Huawei showcases a domestic alternative to NVIDIA-powered compute. Alibaba and Baidu shares jumped in Hong Kong after both companies confirmed Apple AI partnerships for users in China. Rising anti-AI anger is turning into security threats for tech executives, including incidents involving Sam Altman and Anthropic. President Trump is pushing New York to reverse its one-year moratorium on large AI data centers, while Governor Kathy Hochul says communities need protection and a share of the upside. Let's start with a warning from inside the financial system. At Senator Dave McCormick's Pennsylvania Defense and Innovation Summit on July 15th, JPMorgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon said the risks around Anthropic's Mythos AI model are a real issue already being addressed by the US government. His most striking line was that uncontrolled access would be like giving ballistic missiles to individuals with Mythos. The reason this lands is that Mythos was released in April to a limited group that included JPMorgan, and Anthropic positioned it as one of the most advanced models for finding and fixing cybersecurity vulnerabilities. That is exactly the dual-use problem. The same capability that helps a bank defend its systems could help an adversary find weaknesses faster. In June, the US government placed export-style restrictions on access to Mythos and Fable 5 for foreign nationals, citing national security concerns about potential misuse by countries such as China or Russia. Those controls were later lifted after Anthropic added safeguards. So the bigger question is not whether banks should use stronger defensive AI. Of course, they want better defenses. It is whether access control becomes part of the product, not just a policy note after launch. Now to Shanghai, where AI is as much diplomacy as it is technology. Xi Jinping is scheduled to attend the World Artificial Intelligence Conference, or W.A.I.C, from July 17th through 20th, his first appearance at the event. Beijing is expected to frame China's open-source and low-cost AI models as a public good that can help close global inequality, while contrasting that with what it describes as closed and monopolistic US approaches. The timing matters. The forum overlaps with the first government-level AI talks between Washington and Beijing under the Trump administration, after competing positions at a recent UN AI dialogue. There is also a hardware message. Huawei plans to debut its Atlas 950 SuperPOD, a large AI computing cluster that links thousands of Ascend processors into one system for training and inference, explicitly as a domestic alternative to NVIDIA's advanced chips under Western sanctions. DeepSeek's V4 model has already been adapted to run on Huawei Ascend clusters, and Chinese firms including Byron and MetaX are launching their own supernode systems. Here's what is interesting. China is not just saying it wants global rules. It is pairing that pitch with a self-sufficiency stack, from governance forums to chips to models. The open question for other countries is whether they see that as capacity building, strategic alignment, or both. For Apple in China, local AI partners are becoming part of the operating system story. Hong Kong-listed shares of Alibaba rose 5%, and Baidu gained 4%, after the companies confirmed partnerships to integrate their AI models into Apple Intelligence services for users in China. Alibaba says its Qwen model will power text and image understanding and generation across iOS, iPad OS, Mac OS, and Vision OS, without requiring users to switch apps. Baidu also confirmed it is working with Apple on similar iPhone AI features. The regulatory piece is just as important. China's Cyberspace Administration, the CAC, approved Apple Intelligence along with 6 other smartphone AI services, including Huawei's, as licensed providers. In practical terms, this shows how different the AI rollout can look market by market. Apple gets a path to offer features in China, while Alibaba and Baidu get the possibility of distribution through one of the world's most important device ecosystems. But a share price jump is not the same thing as durable revenue. The real test will be whether these integrations feel seamless and useful enough for users, while still satisfying China's licensing framework. This next story is the darkest one today because the AI backlash is moving beyond arguments online. The Wall Street Journal reports rising violent threats against AI companies, with real-world incidents affecting leaders and officers at OpenAI and Anthropic. In April, there was an attempted firebombing of OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's home, captured on surveillance footage. The suspect was later charged with attempted murder and attempted arson. 5 days apart, on April 15th, a man tailgated a badge-holding employee into Anthropic's San Francisco headquarters, entered the lobby with an envelope addressed to a top executive, and told a security guard that the executive was going to be killed and that he needed to warn someone. That encounter ended without violence or arrest. Criticism of AI companies can be intense, and many debates about labor, safety, creative work, and power are legitimate. But threats and physical attacks change the conversation in a dangerous way. They can harden companies, escalate security, and make it harder to have the public, evidence-based debate this technology badly needs. Finally, the AI infrastructure fight is getting very local. President Donald Trump criticized New York Governor Kathy Hochul on Truth Social after she signed an executive order imposing a 1-year moratorium on new large-scale data centers that consume 50 megawatts or more of power. Trump called it a terrible decision made for political reasons and urged the state to reverse course immediately. He framed data centers as future job and revenue engines, while also saying they must pay for their own water and power, with any surplus benefiting local communities. Hochul defended the pause by saying communities that power AI should share in its success, and she framed the order as responsible governance. This is described as the first statewide ban of its kind in the US, and it comes as data centers face growing backlash over electricity and freshwater demand at a time when AI growth has already contributed to rising utility prices. The bigger issue is cost allocation. If AI infrastructure is economically valuable, who gets the jobs and tax revenue, and who absorbs the power, water, and affordability pressure? New York is forcing that question before more very large projects get approved. Today's throughline is boundaries. Who gets access to powerful cybersecurity models? Who writes global AI rules? Which local partners shape AI on phones? How do companies protect people without shutting down public scrutiny? And how do states decide when AI infrastructure is worth the strain on local resources? Thank you for staying informed with DigiAll Tech News. We'll be back with more updates as they develop.